Hello, people of the internet. Welcome. This is Special Report, your news and views program about geek gaming culture on said internet. Coming up in the show today, we're going to go all into the companies or the video game companies that have decided they don't want to do business in Russia because of this whole conflict that is going on. A bit of a warning before we go into this, that this is going to contain some subject matter that is deemed a hot button issue, and because of that, some opinions are going to vary from person to person. And those opinions are going to be held by people who have their heels dug in and might not want to hear certain other opinions, even though they may be valid or invalid. Please be advised to keep an open mind. Please be advised that everybody deserves to be treated with an utmost of respect when talking about this issue. And remember that your opinion is not the only opinion that is out there. We are going to go all into this discussion with as much tolerance as we can possibly can to all sides of the story. I am JD Shadow. All of this and the OCRemix Track of the day is going to come your way right about now. So, in case you are not aware, if you've not watched the news, or if you're not on social media, in case you're crawling up under a rock, you probably are aware of the situation going on in Ukraine at the cause of the Russian army and the Russian parliament. I'm going to try my best in order to keep the political talk at a minimum here. I'm going to talk mainly about what some of the gaming companies have done. However, as this is a particularly hot button topic right in the moment, please be advised that some of the things that are saying here might not be in your line of thinking right at the moment, because there's a bunch of different opinions that are going on and everybody has their heels dug in and they seem to be in the same mindset of, if you agree with anybody else even for a fraction of a second or for a fraction of their opinions, you are my better enemy or what have you. That is not the way we do things here. That should not be the way we do things. Unfortunately, that is the way we are doing everything anymore in this age, and it doesn't seem like anybody is trying to calm anything down. And any attempt to calm it down just gets met with hostility because some media outlets decide they want to continue this whole idea of division for our own benefit. Notice they're not talking about a particular virus anymore now that this is all going on, because they can't really divide us on that anymore, because people are a little bit in solidarity that the worst is now over with that. However, now we have to deal with this, and so I'm going to do my best in order to express my opinions in the most respectful way possible. And so here we go, because some gaming companies have decided they're going to take a stand. Unfortunately, the stance that they are taking is a bit polarizing for the reasons we'll specify here in a moment. The main one here has to do with EA Sports FIFA, because quite frankly, EA has a lot to answer for with their Madden series right now. But instead of trying to fix those bugs and trying to fix those glitches, they're instead going to try to virtue single here. In a statement from EA Sports FIFA, it states, quote, "EA Sports stands in solidarity with the Ukrainian people and, like so many voices across the world of football, calls for peace and an end to the invasion of Ukraine. In line with our partners at FIFA and UEFA, EA Sports has initiated processes to remove the Russian national team and all Russian clubs from EA Sports FIFA products, including FIFA 22, FIFA Mobile, and FIFA Online. We're also actively evaluating related changes to other areas of our games. We will keep our communities up-to-date and thank players for their patience as we work through these updates." There's no indication of when they're going to lift this kind of thing, lift this order, if they are going to at all. So keep that in mind, and you may be seeing by now what this is all about. There have been many companies that are saying we're not going to do business in Russia or for Russia until this is resolved, assuming that this gets resolved at all, and assuming that they're even saying that and say, hey, we don't want to do business with you anymore ever. And this is getting met with some mixed reaction. Now, before we're going to go into reaction, let's talk about the other big company that has seemingly decided they didn't want to do business anymore. Projekt Red, which they have not been in the best of consumer goodwill right now. They might want to fix Cyberpunk 2077 still, because that's still not fixed. Anybody figure out whether or not the brain dance sequence is fixed or still causing headaches and seizures? As I heard, that has not been fixed, and there really is no plans on them even addressing that situation. But instead of doing that, instead of fixing Cyberpunk, they decided doing this and say, in light of the Russian military invasion in our neighboring country of Ukraine, until further notice, the CD Projekt Group has made the decision to halt all sales of our games to Russia and Belarus. Today, we begin working with our partners to suspend digital sales and cease physical stock deliveries of CD Projekt Group products, as well as all games distributed on the GOG platform to the territories of Russia and Belarus. No saying that Steam is included in this. By the way, no word on what they're saying about all of this. And it's not like the people in the country have no other avenue in order to get these products. They can go through torrents, they can use VPNs. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of VPNs out there that Russian people can use in order to get these products. I don't think you're going to do any real banning there, CD Projekt Red, but they're continuing on because this gets even better here. The entire CD Projekt Group stands firm with the people of Ukraine. While we are not a political entity capable of directly influencing state matters, even though they're doing something that they believe will do this, and don't aspire to be one, even though, again, they're doing this, we do believe that commercial entities, when united, have the power to inspire global change in the hearts and minds of ordinary people, which basically means that's a contradictory sentence. They're saying one thing in one part of the sentence and then saying that they're going to do or attempt to do something in the other part of the sentence. How does that make sense? That's a contradictory sentence. We know that players in Russia and Belarus, individuals who have nothing to do with the invasion of Ukraine, will be impacted by this decision. Why are you doing this then? But with this action, we wish to further galvanize the global community to speak about what is going on in the hearts of Europe, to our brothers and sisters fighting to their home country stay strong. So if you know that Russian people who had nothing to do with this whole thing going to get affected, why are you doing that? You know this is going to be impacting them, and you know they have nothing to do with it, but what's the point then? Because this is getting met with some pretty mixed reaction. We'll get to that in a minute, but I want to show you the most ridiculous thing. This has nothing really to do with gaming, but I want to show this to you, is that the International Cat Federation bans Russian cats from competitions. This is getting a little bit ridiculous, and it seems like the International Cat Federation is going draconian about this one. They're saying that not only does any cat belonging to exhibitors living in Russia may be entered to any five-fee show outside Russia, regardless of which organization these exhibitors hold a membership in, but they also are saying they would not allow any cats bred in Russia to be imported or registered in any of its pedigree books. What? Please tell me where this helps anybody. You're punishing animals that can't do anything. What do you expect them to do? I don't understand that line of thinking. And here's the biggest thing about this particular thing, is that this is also getting mixed reaction. Talking about animals. What do you want them to do? That is absolutely idiotic. And I don't think even the most warmongering person would want anything like that. But apparently we have to educate people on this too. What is going on? But it even gets worse than that, because now the Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine and Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name, is trying to get the attention of Xbox and PlayStation with this, saying, you are definitely aware of what is happening in Ukraine right now. Russia declared war not for Ukraine but for all civilized world. If you support human values, you should live the Russian market. I have no idea what made him think he could type up proper English. I'm pretty sure I'm understanding what he's saying, but wow, that took me a headache and a half in order to read all that. And that was just a tweet there. Anyway, you've probably seen that there. Now, it's important to note that there have been reports of anti-war protests in Russia, so that has been happening. And it's also important to note that this has been getting a lot of mixed reaction. I said, okay, the cat thing, that is absolutely ridiculous. That's getting mixed reaction, and people are cheering that. And that is really bewildering. This is beginning a lot of mixed reaction, both from America and actually from Russia right now, because what I'm going to show you is some tweets in the Russian language, and I had actually translated some of these through Google Translate. I know it's not the best thing in the world, but it's what we have. And you'd be surprised that a lot of people from Russia are not exactly happy about Putin doing what he's doing, but also not happy about the response that they're seeing from these companies, which should show you a whole lot about the mindset that's going on right now. But you could probably see where some people are thinking when they're for the things like what EA Sports and what Cyberpunk distributors, CD Projekt Red are doing, which is it's because of the taxing that those products have, and that the taxes go to the Russian parliament, Russian government, and that can, in theory, fund what Putin is doing. And that's their understanding of that. But can we have a better way of doing that other than to punish people who had nothing to do with this and do not support this kind of thing just because they're Russians, not Russians, because they reside in that territory? Do we have a better way of going about this? Because all this is going to do, and I know the people are going to say, hey, this has something to do with taxing and this is going to motivate people in order to take action. All this is going to do is one of two things. It's either going to alienate those people who are Russians and thought that, hey, we understand that you are in a tough situation right now. You're in a situation where you only had one choice of a person to lead your country, and he's doing something you don't want to do. That doesn't matter because you are from Russia. We don't like you. And they're going to say, hey, you weren't with us when we were doing this, so screw you. That's what they're going to say. Either that, or you're going to force them into a situation where they do not feel comfortable in going. Because here's the long and short of it. What do you want them to do? What is it you expect them to do about this? Go pick up a gun and fight on the front line? Go try to do something to Putin? What do you want them to do? Other than trying to make sure that their family and friends are okay. Because you have to think that they're hoping that the Ukrainian army doesn't retaliate and tries to invade Russia. And then they're going to be put in danger. You have to think that perhaps that is on their minds. And yeah, they should be against their government. They should not approve of any of this. But here's the other thing. You don't want them to put themselves into any danger themselves. Yes, what's happening in Ukraine is terrible. It's awful. They should not be put through that by a tyrannical government right now. But at the same time, you don't want people to feel like they have to do something that puts themselves in danger when they don't have to be. There are ways you can show your disdain for the actions of your government without having put yourself into any danger. And the anti-war protests are a firm representation of that. But to alienate those people, to alienate people who might have your back, it's just going to aggravate the situation, and it's just going to give people more reason to replace Putin with another person that's just as bad. And plus is a form of censorship, because most of these games do have online lobbies and do have places where Russians can communicate with other people from different countries, and they might be able to say, hey, we are okay, we are with you, please do something about this, and hey, you and I might be able to be friends here in the bellows of war here. By not allowing them that outlet, you are essentially censoring them and saying, hey, there might be a different perspective. This is probably what's going on here. We are just as much in danger because we don't want to be retaliated against. We don't want to get bombed. We don't want to get shelled. We don't want to put in any danger. And yes, there have been people on Twitter who are saying that the Russians are at fault because they're the ones who elected Putin. There was only one person on the ballot there. What do you want them to do? Why are you punishing them when they can't do anything about it? And I'm not quite sure taxes are going to be enough for Putin to be hurting. You know what's going to hurt him? The stoppage of purchasing of their oil. That might help and might be something that might actually hurt him, but not this. What is banning cats from Russia going to do besides just telling people, hey, we're doing something, now look at us, or be a publicity stunt, or be a virtue signal to get somebody to buy the product? You know what's happening with Coca-Cola right now? I saw what was trending earlier today. I know what was going on there, but there is another perspective of this, and this gets into a little bit of the more political thing, is that even though Russia is doing something terrible and inhumane, this is not saying that Ukraine is necessarily off the hook, because they have been accused of poking the bear way too many times with our help. And this is something that I've heard around the bend, and this is something that, even though I'm not an expert of this sort of thing, I certainly am capable of talking about it, because yes, this is a free country, yes, this is my channel, yes, I can be allowed to talk about this sort of thing because this is my channel after all. And you shouldn't have to be an expert in order to be able to see what's going on with your own two eyes. And I don't think not being an expert disqualifies you from being allowed to talk about these things and having a little bit degree of understanding of what's going on. So from what I understand, this has been going on for 8 years. Not necessarily the Russian invasion, but this back and forth that's been going on. And the reason why is because apparently the United States wanted Ukraine to be a part of NATO, which in Russia's mind is a threat to them because it was something that transpired in 1992. And I might be getting the details wrong on this. Please correct me if I'm getting some things wrong here. From what I've heard, to break up the Soviet Union back in that point in time. And there have been a couple people who have said some things, I think in 2010 and then 2015, that warned both the United States and the world abroad that this is going to cause some conflict down the road. This is not going to be okay. This is going to poke the bear, and we're going to have to pay dividends of this. And there were many people who were questioning whether or not NATO was necessary anymore. Some people were saying now that Russia has invaded Ukraine, that is proof that this is still necessary. But it might have been NATO that was provoking the bear here. And there have been people who have said that Ukraine was housing missiles on the borders of Russia, and that poked the bear a little bit further. And even though what Putin did was uncalled for and uncondonable, what happens if you poke a bear, if you strike a hornet's nest too many times, assuming that one time isn't enough? They're going to retaliate. They're going to do something. You can't just keep poking and poking and poking and expect them to just take it. And yeah, there could have been much better ways in order to say, okay, stop. And as far as I know, Russia at one point wanted to join NATO, and they were refused the admittance. And all of this information, I don't think you're going to get this out of stuff like CNN, MSNBC, or Fox. You gotta go around. And this is why I keep saying, don't just believe that the people on YouTube are just conspiracy theories, or the people who are telling you this stuff are just pulling it out of thin air. They might be getting their information from something that's reliable. If Jimmy Dore says something that he found from the Washington Post, maybe read the Washington Post article. Maybe he is telling the truth. Maybe people of the Gray Zone are telling the truth. Maybe Aaron Mate is telling the truth, or Glenn Greenwald. Maybe the people who are trying to tell you that those people are conspiracy theories are just saying that because they believe that that's cutting into their ability to gain ratings, or to gain viewers, or gain sponsors. And that doesn't mean all of them are going to say the absolute right information. You should be skeptical regardless of who it is that's telling you that, whether it be MSNBC, CNN, Young Turks, whoever. And Young Turks are probably the worst of them all, and I regret that I'm still subscribed to them after some of the things they've pulled recently. And within the past year, they doubled down on their smear on Aaron Mate from some months ago. And keep in mind that the only reason why they're doing that is because they don't like that progressives have a choice and show that they can watch now. They don't have to go to TYT. They're not the only game in town for progressives anymore, and they don't like that. So they're trying to smear whoever is getting more ratings than them. They can't smear MSNBC because they're way too powerful. They can't do the same with CNN, although they do try, and although CNN does deserve it, because they're way too powerful. But they can smear Joe Rogan, they can smear Aaron Mate, they can do that because who's going to come to their defense in the mainstream? The only difference between TYT and MSNBC right now is that TYT is allowed to be more aggressive, and they're allowed to call people names, and they're allowed to outright lie to your face without any evidence, because no person that is watching them religiously is going to fact check them and is going to call them out on anything. And they feel like they have to respond to everybody. They could have just easily let the response tweet from Aaron Mate go, but they couldn't help themselves. They had to do a 17-minute response video in the middle of them clearing up the thing about the Snake Island thing, which is another reason why these so-called sanctions are not going to help, because some of these people are basing it off of things that we've been debunking, or the other people have been debunking several times over. We need to be sympathetic not just for the Ukrainian people who are getting the brunt of this, but for the Russian people who have also been deemed guilty by association, who can't do anything about it without putting themselves in any danger. There are people who are siding against the war. They should be allowed to express that through things like these games and through these sporting events where they can show that, hey, we don't stand with Putin on this. We should be an independent nation. We should be able to show that. We're not being allowed to show that. We're not admitted to this place. We don't know if we'll ever be again. We don't know if you're going to lift these things. We don't know if you're ever going to allow us into your homes again. We don't know if we're going to be allowed to be human beings anymore because you feel as though that we are less than human because you think that we side with him just because we're Russians. If you recall, maybe in your history books, that back when World War II happened and we were dealing with the Japanese army, you know what we did to Japanese Americans? We put them through concentration camps. And we still have to apologize for that to this very day. Not that we are not also apologizing to this very day what we end up doing in order to end that war, but I could see some people on Twitter really wanting that for Russian Americans now. Do you really think that's going to be necessary? Maybe some people on Twitter who are going to talk themselves into circles all the time might want that. And that is very sad right now. That is extremely sad that we have to worry that that might be a reality, that people want that. And this might be something that is a slippery slope as well. That's why we have to speak out and say, hey, there is a line that we need to make sure we don't cross with this. Yes, I do understand if some airliners or airline companies don't want to travel there or travel from there, because who wants to go through an airspace in which people are bombing each other? I wouldn't want to fly there either, thinking that maybe I might be caught in the crossfire. I would understand that, but removing a team from a video game or stopping sales of a video game because you feel like that's going to accomplish something, or by banning a particular animal from a particular country just because you want to show the world that you stand for something when you really don't, as long as people give you money, you're fine with how far you're going to take it. Where is the line? Where is the end of the road here? What is the end result going to be? What do you want them to do about this? About their government? Doesn't put them into any danger. And no, this does not mean that we're condoning what Putin did. Please be able to separate these two things. You can do both. We can chew gum and walk at the same time. We can say, hey, Putin is doing such a ridiculous thing, a horrible, horrible, heartless thing. But at the same time, hey, this might be going a little too far. Hey, we shouldn't dehumanize the entirety of a civilization just because their government is few cards short of a full deck. And there are some things that are not worth sanctioning. There are some things that are not worth taking away from them, while still saying, hey, Ukrainian government, you are not off the hook here. You poked the bear way too many times. What did you expect to happen? In the US, why did you keep pushing for this NATO thing? Why did you keep pushing for this? You knew what was going to happen. You knew how this was going to end. And yet you did it anyway, because why? Because they have a oil pipeline you might want? Is that it? Are you still mad that you couldn't prove that Russiagate was true? Or maybe it's something else altogether. We are allowed to do both things at the same time. It's okay to do that. And it's okay to do both things and still be a progressive. It's okay to have both things here. And that's that's another reason why stuff like this is not necessary. If you want to sanction something that's actually going to make a difference. Like their oil supply and us not buying from them now. That'll do wonders. Because a lot of that money is going to go to the Russian government. Not just a little cents on a dollar for tax, not a video game, and not alienating normal civilians and telling them, hey, you have to do something which they should not be doing because it's going to put them into more danger than they already are on both sides of the equation. This is not a good thing for either side here. Yet you are supporting just one side of this and not realizing that you're doing the exact opposite of what you think you are doing. And yes, I do hope that everybody who is directly affected by this is okay and they stay out of danger, stay out of this conflict, stay out of this. Be sure that the entirety of the world is on your side regardless of where you reside from, and your governments should be acting a hell of a lot better than they are right now. And to this International Cat Federation, what are you doing to these cats? They did not do a damn thing. You should be ashamed of yourselves. EA and CD Projekt Red should be ashamed of themselves too, but you should definitely ashamed of yourselves. How dare you do that? They're cats. What are they gonna do? Nobody should condone that kind of sanction. When that sort of innocence is being blamed, when cats are being blamed, you know we've crossed the line. Please tell me that the majority of people who see at least say that's a little too far. That should show you how silly some of these are getting. Let's think of the cats involved in this. They didn't do anything. What do you want them to do? Claw and scratch Putin's eyes out? Hey, maybe that will end it all. Who knows? After all, it is just a cat's world. We just live in it. That's gonna do it for this edition of the special report. Please hit that like and share, subscribe, and ring the bell for more of stuff like this. I hope I didn't anger too many people. I know it's a hot button issue. I know there's a lot of different opinions, people who feel like only their opinion matters. So there's a lot you have to dance around, a lot you have to consider when you're giving your opinions like this. Let's go for a little lighthearted OCRemix track for the day, because I do believe we need to have this sort of calm right at the moment. And again, we hope that everybody that is directly affected by this situation that's going on, any civilian that is being affected, is safe and can find some sense of stability and safety during these trying times. I know it's hard, and we're with you on all of these issues. We're with you in making sure that you guys are safe and that this can end in a peaceful manner. This can end soon, because not only are people getting killed, but they're losing their sanity as well. Well, let's get to this. This is from the original Zelda game from Zyko, Z-Y-K-O. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am forgiven if I do not. Usually I don't pronounce things correctly on the first try, so please forgive me for that. It is called Another Dream Will Start From Here. This is a mix of the title and the ending theme of the original Zelda game, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for listening and watching. My name is JD Shadow, and of course that just happened.